soft like flower do. Sure, I know that your stem has a story. Melodies seem to form inside of you. The flow of your body drips soft like flower do. Sure, I know that your stem has.
Hi, I'm Effie Barker. We are right here in downtown Los Angeles. When you say we're not going away with these issues, what are those issues? Good evening. Welcome to the special edition of I'm Effie Barker. Welcome back to Effie Barker Human Interest. We are still with our guest, who is originally from Georgia, USA, Miss Tara Olawoyi. She will share to us the fees that's involved in getting her UK visa, and the emotional struggle that's involved, and the length of time of waiting for the visa, and what's it like when she finally reunited with her family. Do you recall roughly how much did you have to pay for the healthcare before you come here?
I want to say the first time it was like 600 pounds, and by the second time it was like 800 pounds or 1,200 pounds. Like it doubled or something along the way. But yeah, it wasn't as much 7 years ago as it is now.
Yeah. Altogether, including the visa fees, the application fees, and the healthcare fees, how much roughly you had spent in order to get here?
From that day in August of 2016 at the playground to my citizenship, February 2023, this year, was around 16,000 pounds.
Really?
Just in visa and indefinite leave and citizenship fees.
16,000?
Around 15, yeah, around 15, 16,000.
Does that include the lawyer or?
No, we actually ended up doing all the applications ourselves. We didn't pay for any lawyers.
That's
Well, after that first bad advice, we were like, no,
right.
we're fairly intelligent people. We can read the rules and figure things out. So yeah.
Yeah. Both have PhD. Why not?
Well, I didn't finish my PhD, but yeah.
Still, you got into, of course. So you got your visa finally after 9 to 10 weeks.
Yes.
Finally had it, and you had to fly in the UK. Take us back into that moment and when you finally got here.
Okay, so my husband didn't tell the kids. He took them to school. So little one was in nursery and older one was in year 2. So he took them to school, and little one was only in nursery for half a day. So I flew, of course it's an overnight flight and you land really early in the day, but I just sat at the airport. I sat at Heathrow. He told me just to wait. He dropped them at school, came pick me up, took me home. I quickly changed and freshened up and then went to school to pick up the little one. And it took her a minute. It took her a minute to say, "Oh, that's mommy." And then once she realized it, she held on to me for dear life and wouldn't let go. And we went home because, of course, year 2 child had the whole rest of the school day to finish. And I still have these videos on my phone too. And then we went to school to pick him up, and I went in and he saw me and he just came running down the hall and just about knocked me over with his little body. So yeah, and that was it. That was like, okay, I'm home. And then we were driving home, and so we were living in Hertfordshire, in Watford area at that time. That's where we landed. And we were driving home, and this car did something funny in front of us. Of course, I knew I was going to have to learn how to drive on the other side of the road. First things first, I had to see my kids. And so I said, I turned to my husband, like, what's that car doing right there? He's like, that's a turn lane. And it's like, oh, he's like, oh, this is going to be fun. So yeah, it was, yeah. So it was just like, and then we have the kids have food allergies. The little one has a lot of food allergies. So for the first 2 years that I lived here, I would literally stand in the aisles at the grocery store, whether it was Morrison's or Tesco, wherever I was, and I was Googling ingredients to see if it was safe for my kid to eat. So yeah. So I
Hmm.
spent a lot of time just learning, like, the basics.
There's still lots of things that you still have to adjust and learn, even though, we came from America
It may
and
be English, but it's a
everything.
different English.
Is that something that you did not expect and see
Yeah.
coming?
No, I did not. I did not.
Mm,
But by the same token, it's also a lot easier to live in England with food allergies than it is in the US. Way
mm.
easier. It's easier in DC than it is in Georgia, but it's above and beyond here. It's so much easier with food allergies here.
Oh, really? So that's one of the perks of I
Yes.
guess.
Yes.
I wanna go back a little bit and
Okay.
before when you talk about, moving here and finally seeing, I mean, as a mother right now, that it's quite heavy to hear that I could see why it took a little while to get that trust, because I left my daughter when I went to the States in last, I know, just this year. She's 3 at the time. She just turned 3, and that was just 2 weeks. And now she's terrified whenever I go. So I can see that, and there's that level of trust that you have to build. And
Rebuild, yeah, because it was a solid 1 year. There were a lot of behavioral issues with her, with her around me specifically. She was an angel for everyone else, but with me specifically, there were a lot of behavior problems for about a year.
so we both mentioned earlier about that, these are the things, and among other things, that many people don't understand what these
Right.
immigrants are going through. Given of what you have experienced here, what would you wish the UK would have done better in terms
Um,
of immigration policies?
I wish they would not have separated us or made it. It's not that they chose to separate us, but it was made to feel like I didn't have a choice. Um, so I wish that, you know, that had not happened. You know, everything else, learning to drive on the other side of the road, learning ingredients, all of that is just part and parcel of the gig of moving abroad. So, but that separation thing, I wish they had not made us feel like that was our option, our only option. You know, since the pandemic, a lot of us have reviewed how we look at life, right? And we actually pulled the kids out of school and we now home educate, because we're able to give them a bit more at home. Both kids were missing things in the school system. So um, now, from my perspective, now I know, oh, I don't have to follow the rules. I can't, they don't. It would have been okay. She was only 2, he was only 6. It would have been okay for them to miss 3 weeks of school. Um, you know, so but yeah, the separation thing, if that's what we went through, I can't fathom what people coming from Asia or Africa, or South America even, what they go through to get here.
Yeah, I mean, in some parts maybe it's similar, but in other, because I'm a Filipino American, I transport myself to different continents, So when I moved to the States, I've never had a day that I cried. Everything was nice, everything was fun, everything was
Yeah.
exciting for me. Not only that the Philippines is very Americanized, but um, a lot of Filipinos go to other countries for job.
Yeah.
That's just it. And they would do anything, like anything, to go. And the hardship comes with it. But in America, it's like it's a first world country. It's the America, the land of promise, anyway. But
In
for
theory.
us, yeah, yeah, I know it is not. But like for us, it's you have you don't even realize how much you had when you were in the States and the luxury that you have until you moved out from America. So the comparison there is that you come from America and you move to the UK, as opposed to from Commonwealth countries, Asian, Pakistan, and the Philippines included, and everything is grand. When you move to like the UK, everything is grand. So it's not hardship is. in some ways, in the for parents, it's the same feeling. Actually, you'd see a lot of parents in the airport a tug of war with their child. You don't love me, you don't love me, and the child would cry, and it's really traumatic for them. In that sense, it is the same. But on the adult part, I think it's a little bit different, because for them, they're used to hardships already. Like that, it's nothing. It's chicken for them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I guarantee you 100% that a lot of people that are listening to us right now do not know that it does happen to American citizens. It's not just for them. Like, oh, really? It happens to you. Like, we're listening from you, being emotional, firsthand confirmation, right?
Yeah,
That it does. It's traumatized, not just them.
yeah, yeah. It's extremely hard as a parent. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
true. So you said that when you moved here, the emotional part, I mean, you seeing finally with your child and emotional, and then they got to school. And what are the other challenges that you had to go through and the struggles that you had experienced here?
So one of the interesting things, it wasn't like a huge challenge, but I didn't want to drive on the left side of the road without having driving license,
Mhm.
driving lessons, and so it was a learning process for me that everything's still done on paper via snail mail, and like things take time, so you have to get your NI number, and then you can go take your test, and all of this stuff just to get to the driving lessons.
Mhm.
So that was fun. I mean, it was confusing to me. Why is this taking so long? I should be able to walk in, take my test, have my learner's permit, and go, right? But no. But then, so I had 4 or 5 lessons, and my instructor was like, "Are you sure you need to have lessons?" I'm like, "Dude, I've been driving since I was 15,
Mhm.
and I am a good driver." So, you know, yeah, no, I just wanted to be sure I knew how to go on the left side of the road and through roundabouts. Where we lived, there was a magic roundabout not far away,
Mhm.
which is a
Yeah.
roundabout of roundabouts. Um, so, yeah, so I was like, yeah, I just wanted to be sure that before I put my children in my car, one thing I care probably the most about in this life is being a mother and being a good mother. Um, so that I was not going to put my children at risk. But anyways, so we drove to have my driving test. And this was another weird thing for me that, oh, you go with your instructor in the instructor's car to take the test. I'm like, okay, that's different. Um, and I was reading the form to fill out the form, and I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something to the effect of, if you are not a permanent resident, we will not give you a driver's test. And I said, well, I'm here on a spouse visa. I've just gotten here in the past 2 months, and what am I supposed to do with this? And the lady at the DVLA said something essentially like, you need to go home and call them. I'm not going to take you on your test right now. I'll go home and call the DVLA. So my frustrated instructor drove me home, and I called the DVLA, and that person, I don't remember if it was male or female, but that person basically said, sign the form. You've been granted a visa. We know that you're going to be here for a while. So it's fine. Just sign the form. I was like, okay, I guess I get to perjure myself. um, and so I rebooked the test, and of course it's winter at this point, and so we drive to the
You
testing
have to,
center.
sorry, did you have to pay again to rebook it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember. Um,
Hopefully not.
oh, well, it gets better. So we went another week or two later, we went back to the testing center, and they said, oh, we're not doing tests today because the roads are icy. Awesome. So back home we go. And so the third time, my instructor was like, this is ridiculous. And he had a lot of words. And I said, okay. We got there, and I lied on the form because that's what I had been told by a government official to do, and signed my name and did the test and passed with only 3 mistakes, which was the least amount of mistakes that my instructor had ever had on one of his students.
Mm.
so,
Wow.
so one thing I learned from that experience, and it's happened several times throughout the past 7 years, is that there are rules, but the rules are not always enforced here. And that's been a weird thing for me to navigate, because it's like, we'll enforce the rule if we want to, but not if we don't want to. It's fine. You can just go and do it. Okay.
That's
I, so I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that, so I did what I was told to do, got my driver's license, and moved on. Um,
Did you pass on the first take?
yeah, I passed on. I only had 3 mistakes. So
Mm.
yeah, I passed on the first take. And like I said, that was the least amount of mistakes that any of his students had ever made.
Mm.
So that apparently the students' scores changed the instructor's scores. So apparently I made his score better. Something. I don't know. There's some system. There's a system for everything here.
Right. Really pretty messed up if that is the thing where we will impose it if we like it, and that's really messed up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not. It just feels like that.
Yeah.
It's not every situation, but there have been things and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And it's when I felt this way growing up in Georgia too, though. I always felt like an alien in Georgia. Um, but you can look from the outside and sort of see where things could be done more efficiently, more ethically, more fairly. You just like, wait a minute, that doesn't quite make sense in different processes. So
Right, right. All right. So, well, you got your license, you're
yes.
driving already, and you somehow made it through alive. Yeah. But was there a thing that happened to you that was worse? Maybe anything worse than what you have gone through with the drivers and stuff that you thought this is not really I want to have a life here and I don't want it and I don't want to be here.
No, nothing. Those that the being the trauma of the early separation, that was the worst of it.
Okay.
There were times in those first few years, and there was a specific time of the year. I could look through my social media memories and see, oh, this time of the year I have a really hard time.
Oh,
I want to say it's like 3 days before Christmas or something, um, without being near family and friends in the US, or missing a restaurant or something, there hasn't been anything else. There are some health issues in my family, and I feel like by and large they have been very well taken care of. Um, and so I'm very pleased with that, and also not having to pay for it. Not having to come out of pocket and check out at the doctor's office and them asking for an arm and a leg. So that's really nice. But no, there's not been anything that I said, I'm fed up, I'm done, I'm moving back. And I think
mm,
part of it has to do with I moved here and almost immediately had social support. So my 3rd day here, my oldest had been invited to a birthday party in Watford. And so I went and met some of the friends, parents of his classmates and things. And one of them adopted me that day. And I've been very close to her, still am very close to her, even though I now live a ways away. And so, yeah, I think I was able to have some social support here that maybe not a lot of people, a lot of immigrants have straight away. So I think that is really important. And then being close to my in-law, or close to her, to my in-laws and everything. I think that all really helped.
right. How was your interaction experiences at the very beginning, your interactions with the people around you and the community?
Um, so at first, and even actually for my first like 3 years here, I felt like the exotic American. um, I've always sort of been the person that strangers will come up to and just tell me their entire life history. So that's always been a funny thing about me. So I don't know if that's part of what made it easier when I came here. Um, that people would just say, "Oh, she looks like a friendly face," and talk to me. Um, so yeah, I I was able to make friends with a lot of the moms at school. Essentially, that was a good tie-in for me. When we moved to Oxfordshire, so we moved, a little over an hour away and changed schools right before the pandemic. Um, it, made it a bit more challenging. I don't have as big of a social network here. I've been close to a neighbor and had some other friends around, but not the vast group that I had in Hertfordshire, if that makes sense.
Was there any advantage of being an American here?
I imagine there is, but I mean, not being American, I can't really speak super clearly to that.
Yeah. The disadvantage.
A disadvantage of being American.
Yeah.
I've been told off a few times for various things because of like small cultural things that I didn't know or didn't understand.
Can you tell us? Can you tell us what are those?
Well, largely language. Like they are not pants; they are trousers, or it's not. I will be out there in the shopping center if I have to go shopping, and you will hear me say pants, and my children will say pants because we are looking for trousers. No,
Isn't pants means like your knickers or no?
Yes, underwear. Yeah.
Uh,
If I wanted to talk about underwear, I will talk about underwear. I'll talk about
yeah, it happened to me too. I said, "Oh God!" Was it? My friend said your pants. My friend likes your pants, and then she looked at us like, "Oh." And I thought that was a compliment, and then she said because she's been here for 22 years, and she was like, "Girl, pants is like your underwear." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Sorry.
Yeah, so there's been times when I've been dressed down. I can't remember. There was something very specific at some point in these past years. I don't remember the situation, but I remember I was very politely told off. Like, very politely. I honestly don't remember. And I'm like, look, I'm just doing what I was told to do. So,
What about your accent? Was there anybody that was laughing your accent?
no, everyone loves my accent.
They like it.
Yeah. And now what I'm doing is cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy. And so people are listening to me to, go into hypnosis and for meditations and things. And everyone's like, oh, I love your accent. I'm like, okay.
Well, I guess that's an advantage.
It's just me.
Yeah. What did you wish you had known before you moved to the UK?
How flipping cold it was going to be.
Mm.
I'm tired of being cold.
Oh,
no, my husband always warned me. He was always like, it's a lot cold. We could have 5 feet of snow on the ground in DC, and he's like, don't worry, the UK is still going to be colder even though there's no snow. He's like, it's a different kind of cold, and he's not wrong.
So. Right. I haven't been to Georgia, but is it cold there?
No. So no, it's really, to put it in perspective, the first time I went to Nigeria to meet my mother-in-law and everything, some of the aunties were asking me, is it really difficult for you being here in Nigeria because of the heat? It's like, this is a Georgia summer. This is
I see.
No difference. So it can get cold in Georgia, and there might be ice storms, but there's not really like snow. So yeah.
Right. So what do you think are the most important, now that you have lived here and you've experienced what it's like here, what are the most important differences between the UK and the US?
One thing that I loved when I moved here, and it's changed a bit as all things have since the pandemic, was people seem to be more caring. Like there's a thought process put into taking care of our communities where it doesn't always feel like that in the US. And it could be, I've heard it's gotten worse in the US as well, in terms of neighbor against neighbor and, not looking out for each other. Differences, I don't know. Language.
Yeah. So if you could, I mean, you've touched it a little bit earlier, but if you could, we're now down into the last 2 questions.
That's okay.
If you could redo your move to the UK, what would you have done differently?
I would have liked to have had more information so that we didn't sell our house and we had a home to go back to and all of that. And also standing up for myself and my children and not separating my family. Like those are the main things. Although living out of hotels really wasn't that bad, but you know, there came a time in like 5 weeks in that my friend said, she's like, why don't you and come over for dinner? And I was like, she's like, I'll leave a key under the mat for you to get in the front door. I'm like, can I cook? Because we had not had a home cooked meal in like 5 weeks or something ridiculous. And that was one of the best meals we had. Just being able to cook. But in terms of doing differently, no, I would not separate from my family again. I would have preferred to stay in my own home for a little bit longer, I think. I don't know. I could be a nomad. Um, but yeah, no, I don't think there's anything else I'd do differently.
Would you consider yourself as an immigrant or an expat now?
I don't know. That's a funny question because I've always kind of considered myself a citizen of the world. I mean, that's from early childhood. I've always looked at myself as a citizen of the world there. And if I had my way, there wouldn't be borders. There wouldn't be countries. We would just all move about freely. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know because another thing is, so my oldest child is doing a global perspectives course and he had to write something, do an interview with a family member about migrants recently. And I'm like, I'm not a migrant, but I do have the immigrant experience. Daddy has the immigrant experience. You have the immigrant experience, so not migrant, immigrant, maybe expat. Expat to me expresses like a level of wealth that I don't feel like I have, but I don't know. Maybe I am.
Was there subconsciously part of you that is there any desire to move to the States again and say this is just temporary, one day I'll be back?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I doubt I will ever live in Georgia again. But I could go back to DC easily. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that because, when the kids are older and it's just me and my husband again, we will probably float around from place to place. So
Right.
you had asked if there was any impetus for us to move. We had sort of been talking about it when we were still in DC. And the day that my son came home from school, and he was in year 1, I think at that time, and he was describing to me an active shooter drill, I lost it. I am not sending my kids to a school where they have the potential to get shot. And where are you going to send them in the US where they don't have that potential? So no, that was kind of a straw that broke the camel's back for me and part of why we came on.
Yeah, it would make easy for whatever plans you had. That was the driving factor.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely, it made it easy. It wasn't the driving factor. In my ideal world, I'd be here part-time and in the US part-time. I have aging parents. I've got nieces that I've missed their entire childhood.
Right.
They're adults now. I would do a half and half like kind of thing if I could.
With all the experiences you had, what is the best thing that happened to you here?
Oh, the best part, the absolute best part. And it took me a while to reflect on this, but I realized it 3 or 4 years in. When I moved to the UK, no one knew me. A lot of my in-laws had not even met me, in terms of like sibling in-laws. And I got to play with who I thought I should be, who I wanted to be, how I wanted to act, how I wanted to feel. Because growing up where I grew up and moving to DC, everyone had expectations. And the weight of those expectations was a lot for me. So moving to the UK for me, in terms of my self-development, and I'm constantly evolving, constantly figuring out how to better myself, essentially. I got to be free. I got to be free and learn who I really am as a person. And that's just freedom for me. That's just freedom.
Mm.
So that's
And
the
you,
best part. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything British culture.
right, no, yeah, but that's good. You were able to, that you didn't expect that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I got to experiment, oh, do
Mm,
I want to try this? Do I want to try to do that? Do I, like, what is it that I want to do and who I want to be?
right. That's freedom, as you say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the we talked about earlier, the things that you wish the UK would have done better in terms of immigration? What about as in general, through life, the experience of your life here?
Um, well, I would love to be able to call the GP and make an appointment at a, normal hour. I would love to not have to be on the phone at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is before I usually get up. There are little things that, one thing I love is having my groceries delivered. I've always hated shopping of any sort. So to be able to click a few buttons and have my food show up at my door is fantastic. But yeah, I am hurting for and with the NHS because I think it's such an amazing institution, and I hate seeing what's happening to it, especially over these past few years. It would be nice, having kids who need to go to specialists and things, to not have to wait for a year, or two in some cases. That would be really nice. I also wish they did better with women's health care. I think there is a huge gap in that. I can't really think. One thing that I've been thinking about lately is when I did my Life in the UK test, and I don't know if it's changed in the past 7 years, there was a huge focus on community. Get to know your neighbors. Your neighbors must know you. And, there was all that. But most of the neighborhoods we've lived in, with the exception of like one, we don't know our neighbors that well. And it's not a, who your neighbors are kind of thing. So that's kind of weird to me. Like, it's so ingrained in that Life in the UK book, but it's not reality.
Hmm.
So that's an interesting thing. It takes a long time to get to know people here.
Well, to my last question, this show is being published around the world. There will be people, like I mentioned earlier, that would be listening, that are planning or already on the process of coming here. Any advice that you can give to them?
Be patient. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process, as it is. Be grace. Allow yourself some grace. It doesn't matter how much you want it or how much you have expectations for it. It is a challenge to move to a new country. It is a challenge to live in a different place from anything you've ever known. So yeah, just take deep breaths and be playful with it. Allow yourself to, like I felt, allow yourself to play with who you are and who you think you are. You'll find that you don't have to conform to a lot of expectations, the way you may have in your hometown or your home state, or your home country if you're coming from another country. Yeah, just be patient, be playful, have grace.
Right, there you go. Thank you so much. Um, Tara, I'm really, really grateful for your coming here and for your story. That is really, really raw to me. The emotions and of being a parent, and of course, I could empathize now, especially now I'm a mother. And there are really mothers already that might be listening to this. And it's a personal story that really is a great story that you shared to me and to us. and that is a privilege for the trust. And I wish you all the best for everything that you are planning, whatever your plans would be, to you and to your family. And well done.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your
Thank
life.
you. I wish you the best as well.
Oh, thank you. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. For stories and suggestions, please email us at effiebarker@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at effiebarker. Keep it here on Love the Beat Radio, LDBR.